Hi everyone, I wanted to give you guys a quick run through of Lab 3, which focuses on sustainability. Correlates pretty well with your book, the video lecture, everything going over chapter 23. It also, you can probably get a little bit from the service learning and marine debris lecture as well. But there's two parts to this lab, and the biggest one is the first one is the trash audit. So for this lab, you guys are focusing on kind of looking inwards to your own personal habits and looking at what we have on this island, what's available, how we treat trash and energy, and kind of thinking of it in the grand scheme of sustainability. So this very first part is a trash audit, and that's basically where you do exactly what it says, is you audit your trash. So you're going to keep track of what trash you're producing and how much of it. So keep in mind that you're going to have to do this for at least 3 days. Okay, so this is due next Friday night. If you have not looked at this until Friday night, you're going to be in trouble. Okay, so you've got to be doing this at least 3 days prior. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to either do a self or a household audit. So if you live alone, this will be really easy to do yourself. You're just going to tally all of the trash that you create. If you live with a family or if you live with roommates, you can choose to either do a household audit and you can get everyone on board with you, or you can do it by yourself and just not count any of their trash. So please circle or highlight which one you choose to do. I would recommend, if you do live in a household with other people, that you do the household audit just to get everyone on the same page, but I know it is a little bit more difficult to control that. So if you do that, please make sure that you have like a pen and paper or something so that other people in your household can mark their waste. Whatever is easier for you. You do want to use this table here to tally things that you're putting in the trash. You can print this out. You can make your own on a piece of paper, whatever is easier for you. If you do it by hand, which I assume that many of you will, you're welcome to take a photo and upload that into the assignment for your lab for the tallies, but please create a digital spreadsheet for this one. So you're going to do the totals here. I want the day 1, day 2, day 3 totals, as well as the total over those 3 days. And this is what you guys are going to graph here, is you're going to graph the total number of items that you have for each one of these categories as a graph for question number 2. Okay, and that should be a pretty clear presentation or picture of what your trash looks like. And this is, again, over 3 days. You can do it longer if you want, but the minimum for this assignment is 3 days. So let's go back up here a little bit just to kind of go over some of the different kinds of trash that you might have. So landfill is probably what you think of for most trash, right? That's stuff that's going to the landfill, or in our case on Oahu, it might also be going to H-Power, but that is essentially trash. So it's something that can't be recycled, and it doesn't include organics. Okay, organics are things like food waste, anything basically that you would be able to compost if you have a compost. Recycling, that's anything that can be recycled, whether it's high five or if it's cardboard that doesn't have any food waste on it, or glass, anything like that. Hazardous waste, this is if you have any chemicals, bleach, anything like that that you're throwing away. This could also potentially be e-waste. So if you had to throw out, say, a computer or a GoPro or something like that, that could be here. Other, please try not to use this. If you do want to use it, you're not quite sure how to categorize something, try looking at the Opala website first, which I'll go to in just a second. But if you really have no idea what it is, you can tally it here, let's say, and then just tell me what it is, right? So just make sure that you kind of give me a good idea of what your other is, and then maybe we could figure it out together. So please start by reading through this, what the trash audit is, what the purpose of it is, but basically it is to make you guys a little bit more aware of what trash you're going through and how you could potentially reduce that trash in the future. So you guys can go ahead and head to this Opala site. This is our local city and county where stuff goes, how you can recycle, that kind of thing. So what to recycle, how to dispose of it. If you live in common single family homes or in different households, this is usually your curbside collection, right? We have blue as mixed recyclables, green as green waste, gray as trash. But it goes through a bunch of different things. So like what hazardous waste is: paint, oil, propane, batteries, that's all hazardous waste. Reduce and reuse, tips for it, aluminum cans, appliances, autos, batteries. It goes through lots of different fairly common items that you might have on here. So if you have questions about things, the odds are that it is probably on this website. You can go through and look on here. And I encourage you to look through this anyways and just kind of get familiar with what waste management on this island looks like. We are a very small island and we have limited resources. So waste is especially important in a place like this because that's how we create more marine debris. That's how we create more greenhouse gases, lots of different things that aren't necessarily great for the environment, right? So go ahead and look through this. You can also look through different parts of the website. I know that some of it's also pretty interesting. If you have questions over really specific things or how you would do it, you can always look at that. The other websites I have on here is one is from, actually both of these are from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and you can always look up your own resources as well, but these are just some general ones. So this is composting, what composting is and how you can do it, some of the basics. All composting has different ingredients: browns, greens, and water, and these are the kind of things that you can compost, right? And you have different methods of composting. There's regular composting, you have worm bins, you have something called bokashi composting that uses little microbes or microorganisms to basically eat at the organics that you're putting into the compost, and it ferments it over time, so it actually composts a little bit quicker. That's something that if you live in, say, in an apartment, you can do a little bit easier. And then these are things that you can't compost and the reasons why. So go ahead and take a look at this, how you can do it, the benefits of composting. I know some of you might compost and some of you may not. That's okay. Just take a look at this and kind of educate yourself on this. You might see some questions on your lecture exam about composting and about how trash or waste management is done here on Oahu, as well as about food waste. So this last one is more on food waste. And it's a little bit about what food waste is, right? And food waste is just anything, any kind of food that you're not eating, basically. And we have food waste, right? Like when you're cutting up vegetables or fruits, stuff that you're not going to eat or that you can't really eat, or that might go bad. But we waste quite a bit of food. About 94% of the food we throw away ends up in landfills or combustion facilities. So like H-Power here on Oahu, we disposed of 38.1 million tons of food waste in 2017. So that's a lot. And food waste is a problem, one, because we're getting rid of valuable food that we could be feeding to people, right? And two, because when it gets into a landfill, it creates lots and lots of extra methane. So now we're just producing more greenhouse gases, we're causing other issues, as well as if we do send it to a combustion facility, then we don't really have the methane problem as much, but we are still wasting those nutrients that could be really valuable for our soil and for kind of keeping within that carbon cycle. So there's lots of benefits to reducing food waste and how you can do it at home. There's different ways on how you can do it. And a lot of it starts with composting, but also storage and prepping. So read through this. Again, you might see something like this on your lecture exam. So in addition to just being good things to know, you might want to know it for this class. Okay, so make sure you read through all of that, understand it. I'm hoping that you guys take away things from this class that are really good for you as far as sustainability and like really interesting for you. And then just follow the instructions for the trash audit. It's pretty straightforward. Again, you can do it one of two ways. You can either dig through all your trash at the end of a day or at the end of 3 days. I don't recommend that. I would just do it as you go. So just keep this by the trash can maybe, and keep in mind that this is for a full day. So that means if you go to work, if you go to school, wherever you go to, keep track of all of your trash for that day and do the best you can. I know this isn't super easy and it's not something we commonly do, so you might forget a little bit. That's okay. Just do your best that you can. And this is just to be generally more aware of your decisions and what's happening. So once you create the graph, you should be able to see it's probably going to look best as a bar graph. And again, you can just do the total here. You can do all the days and a total as well if you want to do like 2 separate graphs, but I want to see at least one graph that has the totals here for each of these main categories. And then you can use that information and answer some of these questions. So like, what do you think you can do to reduce your waste? Can you reduce your landfill waste and recycle better? How can you reduce recycling contributions? If you didn't pick it up in lecture, recycling is very difficult, it's very costly, and it almost doesn't really exist to the full extent. Aluminum is endlessly recyclable, and it's a great thing to recycle, but it's not often recycled by people. So recycling really relies on you actually getting out and doing the recycling part of it. So like with High Five, right? We're always charged, is it 5 or 6 cents now, every time you purchase something that's either plastic or aluminum or glass that can be recyclable under High Five, but you've got to take it to Reynolds or whatever to actually recycle it, and then you get some of your money back. But that's also a big carbon footprint because everything you take to a High Five recycling center is then shipped off island. None of it is actually recycled locally. So keep that in mind. And the other thing is almost all plastic, I think it's like over 90% of plastic is not actually recyclable. And the ones that are recyclable are usually only recyclable one time. So plastic it's kind of, recycling is a little bit of a lie, unfortunately, in our system. So keep that in mind. We still, although recycling is better than just complete waste, it's still something that we want to keep to a minimum if possible. And then if you don't already compost, would you give it a try? And just be honest in these. If you are like, definitely not, I will never do that, tell me why. Tell me, and there's lots of reasons. These aren't easy things to do, unfortunately, and I wish they were a little bit better organized, but we only have one municipal compost drop-off option, and it's in Wahiawa. The name is Hawaiian Earth Recycling, and I've actually never used it or been there. So if you have been there, go ahead and tell me about it because I would love to hear about it. But otherwise, you kind of have to rely on backyard composting here. And then were you surprised by your trash audit? Why or why not? What things kind of stuck out to you? And it's kind of similar to the next question, which is you writing a brief paragraph. This doesn't have to be too long. I just want to know, if I were your friend and I came up and I asked you, what did you learn about in Lab 3 on sustainability while you did your trash audit? Tell me what your biggest takeaways were, what you learned about Oahu's waste management, about what food waste is or how it contributes to local problems or even worldwide problems, what composting is, and maybe a little bit about what your personal habits are as well. And then part 2 is a little bit shorter. This is just to kind of make you a little bit aware of what our energy here in Hawaii looks like. And we depend much more on petroleum for energy needs. This is only looking at electricity production, so you can see the different resources that we use or the different sources of energy that we use here. So think about the natural resources that Hawaii has, think about the ocean, think about what we have on the land, think about what kind of geothermal activity, all of these things. Think about what we have here and how we could possibly research, develop, and harness these energy sources to better fit our island needs. So think about these, what are potential challenges to them, and think deep on these, guys, because it's not just money, right? Money is always a challenge, but you have cultural implications here as well. So just be thinking about these things. Think about what we currently have and the fights to and for, or for and against some of these energy sources. And you don't have to give your opinion on it, you're welcome to, but just be thinking about what we use here and what the challenges are associated with them. And kind of a thought question, are you surprised by these energy sources, or were you unaware of any of these sort of energy sources, whether we use them or just unaware of generally what they are? That's it for Lab 3. Again, please start it at least 3 days beforehand. I do recommend at least looking at these websites before the exam because you will possibly see some questions there. Okay, and if you have any questions, definitely let me know. Show up to office hours, whatever you need to do. But good luck over Lab 3 and doing your trash audit. Again, do the best you can.